Heels aligned, sword arm high, shadows of yesterday's corrections guided her elbows. A novice to her right, a lank boy with a shaved head, leaned closer between sets. "I'm Tarek," he murmured. "If you need a spar partner, we rotate. Ignore Lala. She talks more than she swings." Lala, a stocky girl 2 places down, shot them both a glare. Sophia gave Tarek a grateful nod. "Sophia?" She whispered back. "But you already know that." "Hard not to when Celine is spitting your name at breakfast," he said, eyes twinkling. Idris clapped twice, the row formed pairs. Sophia ended up with Tarek, who handed her a fresh practice sword with a wink. "Let's see the northern style." "I don't have one," she admitted. "Then invent it." First exchange. Tarek attacked with a high cut. Sophia blocked, sliding under his guard the way she'd studied. He grinned. "Better than you claim." They moved again. Sweat quickly darkened collars. Morning sun climbed. Across the yard, Idris supervised, occasionally stepping behind Sophia to nudge her stance. "Keep knees bent. Momentum starts in the hips." His tone carried approval masked by impatience. Another hour passed in thrusts, counters, and footwork until Idris barked for water. Sophia wiped her brow with a sleeve and staggered to a shaded table where an attendant poured from a copper jug. Bashir offered her a slice of sweet melon. She hesitated only a second before biting, juice dripping down her wrist. "You learn quickly," Bashir said quietly. "Quick learning is easier than starving." His mouth twitched, a fleeting smile. "Your resilience will earn enemies as fast as allies. Guard both flanks." "They whisper already." "Then you're halfway there." He tapped a knuckle on the wooden guard of her sword. "Back at it. Idris isn't finished." Training resumed with group drills. Circles of 5 facing inward, blades clacking. Sophia's shoulders burned. But each parry felt more natural, as if muscle remembered older movements she'd never learned. From atop the colonnade, servants unrolled white canvas awnings. High above, a lone figure leaned against a pillar's shade. She sensed him before she saw him. Arslan, observing in silence. Sunlight glinted off the silver hilt of the sword at his hip. The moment her gaze brushed his, heat pulsed under her skin. His eyes remained unreadable, yet she heard a rumor in the silence, like a distant voice calling her name. Tarek's wooden blade tapped her shoulder. "Lost in clouds?" She refocused, cheeks warm. "Just sun in my eyes." "Sun bites," he agreed and rushed forward. An hour later, Idris dismissed the novices. Sophia's tunic clung to her back. Bashir guided her into the shade of an adjacent corridor, where cool air pooled. "Water then meal," Bashir said. "Healthy portions. Idris insists." Sophia's legs ached, but held steady. In the dining hall, a long chamber of ochre walls painted with desert wolves, novices grabbed bowls of lentils and flatbreads. She took a place near the center, Tarek across from her. He tore bread, dipped it in a stew, and nodded at her grip. "The way you twist your wrist mid-block, that's clever. I copy what works. Keep it. Idris pushes us to specialize." Conversation quieted when Celine entered. She walked the aisle with a glide, emerald robes trailing like vines. Wolves glimpsed behind her eyes, regarded each trainee with faint disdain until they settled on Sophia. "Captain Idris," Celine called. "The Sultan requests this one's presence. Ensure she is prepared for her afternoon engagement." Idris rose from a bench, wiping stew from his beard. "Afternoon engagement?" Celine's gaze never left Sophia. "The harem awaits its newest flower." Bashir, approaching with a tray, paused. "The harem?" "It is customary." Celine smiled without warmth. "Every woman on palace grounds must be catalogued." Idris set his bowl down hard. Broth sloshed. "She is a trainee now, Vizier, not an ornament. Let the Sultan decide her category." Celine turned on soft slippers and exited. Murmurs erupted. Tarek swore under his breath. Sophia forced a swallow of lentils that stuck in her throat. Bashir laid a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'll escort you." he said. A short time later, she stood before towering cedar doors carved with curling vines. 2 harem guards swung them open. The hall beyond shimmered with silk drapes, sun filtering through colored glass to paint the marble in emeralds and rubies. A fountain tinkled, its basin scattered with rose petals. The scent was heady, dizzying. Women lounged on divans, she-wolves in jewel gowns, eyes bright with curiosity or contempt. Celine led Sophia toward the center, where a raised dais held cushioned seating. Zara sat there back straight, copper hair braided with gold threads. Her wolf flickered behind hazel eyes, assessing and predatory. Celine's voice spilled like honey. "Sisters, welcome Sophia of the North, guest of our Sultan." Whispers rose. "She looks thin. Wolfless, they say. Why is she dressed like a trainee?" Zara rose gracefully and descended the steps. She stopped a foot from Sophia, surveying her from boots to hair. "So fragile," she murmured. "An icicle, lost in the desert." Sophia kept her gaze level. "Fragile things can cut." Laughter rippled, some amused, most shocked. Zara's smile sharpened. She leaned close enough that her breath warmed Sophia's ear. "Remember that when you melt." A slap of silk announced Celine clapping once. Attendants carried trays of sweet tea. "Let us drink to new beginnings." Sophia accepted a cup, steam-carrying cardamom scents. She lifted it, aware of dozens of eyes. Across the dais, Aliyah, a slim she-wolf with cold dark eyes, watched her with quiet interest, neither smirking nor praising. Zara sipped and wrinkled her nose. Too bitter. Perhaps the northern palate prefers bitterness. Sophia tasted the tea. It was sweet. She met Zara's gaze. "Perhaps you mistake sweetness for poison." Zara's fingers tightened on the porcelain. Before she could respond, Celine interjected, voice syrup thick. "Enough sparring. Sophia requires orientation." She gestured to 2 attendants. "Show her the baths. Help her select proper attire." Sophia followed. Behind gauzy curtains lay a domed chamber of blue tiles. Steam rose from a sunken pool. Attendants unclasped her tunic, offering silks. She declined and kept her training trousers, kneeling beside the pool to wash her face. Water glimmered like liquid glass. Aliyah slipped through a curtain and crouched beside her. "Don't let them unsettle you," she said, voice low. "Zara tests every newcomer." "She enjoys testing," Sophia replied, "and breaking." Aliyah dipped a cloth, wrung it out. "But you do not seem brittle." Sophia smiled faintly. "Looks deceive. Then deceive them well." Aliyah handed her the cloth. "If you need safe company, find me." Sophia thanked her. A hush fell. Celine appeared at the doorway. "Enjoying the baths?" "Yes," Sophia answered, drying her face. "Good. Remember, elegance is as important as strength." Celine's gaze lingered on Sophia's bruises. "In this palace, every scar is a story. Make sure yours end with victory." Sophia followed her back through the hall. Women's laughter trailed behind. As she reached the exit, Zara's voice floated over silk rustles. "Wolves without fangs don't win stories," she said. Sophia did not turn, but her pulse hammered. Hours later, the sun balanced on the palace walls, throwing long orange bars across the courtyard. Training resumed. Idris coached footwork. Novices circled. Sophia's arms trembled from exhaustion, but stubborn pride kept her upright. When drills paused, Idris approached, speaking softly. "Detours won't steal progress," he said, nodding toward the harem wing. "I'll train at night if needed," she replied. "You might. The Sultan sometimes inspects after dusk." She glanced to the terrace, but Arslan was absent. Dinner spilled into dusk. Sophia ate with Lena and Thora in a quiet servant hall. Lena recounted learning embroidery from an old seamstress who smelled of lavender. Thora sipped broth and traced knotwork patterns on the table, her wolf Reese humming sorrow in her gaze. Sophia shared her fresh melon slice with Lena, who giggled, sticky-fingered. Later, when moonlight silvered the flagstones, Sophia returned to the training yard. Alone. Torches flickered along the walls. She set her stance, exhaled, and moved through the forms Idris had drilled. Rising cut, sweeping guard, reverse pivot. Sand hissed under her feet. Each breath matched the low drum of blood in her ears. Swing, block, step. Again. Again. Sweat cooled on her neck. A rustle of fabric behind a column alerted her. She didn't stop. Another pass. Step. Parry imaginary strike. Counter. The watcher stayed silent. She knew who it was without looking. Her heartbeat quickened, but she forced calm, letting the rhythm of movement steady her. She finished the final form, lowering the wooden blade. Only then did she turn. Arslan stepped from the shadow, arms folded. Torchlight carved his face into sharp planes, eyes molten gold. "You should rest," he said. "I will," she replied, catching her breath. Later. His gaze traced the line of her arm where a fresh bruise purpled. His wolf's voice seemed to vibrate in the air, though she could not hear words, only felt the weight of longing and frustration. He took a step closer. She held her ground. "Why drive yourself beyond exhaustion?" he asked. "If I break before dawn, I'll know I wasn't meant to survive." "Survival is not proof of worth. It's enough for tonight." Arslan's jaw flexed. Somewhere within, his wolf growled. She sensed the rumble more than heard it. He reached out, perhaps to touch her shoulder, then withdrew before contact. "Captain Idris tests you tomorrow," he said, "and so do you." His eyes narrowed, then softened unexpectedly. "And what is your verdict?" "Ask me when I can still lift my arms." A breath of laughter escaped him, quickly stifled. He turned away, cloak swirling. "Rest, Sophia." She watched him disappear into the corridor, tension coiled like wire behind each stride. Alone again, she pressed a palm to her sternum. The internal heat beat stronger tonight. Dreams waited, pressing against sleep like hands against glass. When she slipped into bed, moonlight slicing across the ceiling, Lena's soft snores filled the quiet. Sophia's eyelids dragged closed. Almost at once the dream claimed her. She walked a corridor of white marble, walls shimmering with runes. At the end stood a black wolf with a silver nose, eyes gleaming like twin moons. It padded forward. She reached out, fingers trembling, and for the first time, its voice brushed her mind. Not words, but a rumble of recognition that filled her chest with fierce warmth. She woke just before dawn, lungs full of the wolf's breath, heart racing. The gong for dawn prayer sounded low and resonant through the palace, rippling across tiled roofs like a quiet tide. Sophia dressed quickly, her limbs still aching from midnight drills. She paused at the mirror, noticing new calluses forming on her palms. Good, she thought. Skin toughens before spirit breaks. Lena stirred on her pallet but slipped back into dreams while clutching the stuffed scrap of cloth that doubled as a doll. Sophia kissed the girl's brow and slipped into the corridor. Bashir waited outside with 2 guards and a tray of flatbread wrapped around roasted eggplant. "Eat on the walk," he said, thrusting it into her hands. "Captain Idris expects you twice, eager for morning drills after your nocturnal escapade." "You knew? I know everything that happens in these halls." His lips twitched. "Some nights the guards hear phantom blades slicing sand. I keep silent." "Thank you." They crossed a courtyard where gardeners swept fallen jasmine petals into neat piles. The air smelled faintly of cardamom and damp stone. Bashir's steps slowed at an intersection leading away from the yard. "The Sultan summons me," he said. "Stay alert today, do not rise to every taunt." Sophia managed a wry smile. "I'll keep my sword sheathed unless ordered." "Wise." He lowered his voice. "Remember, endurance cuts deeper than sharp tongues." She nodded and continued alone. In the training yard, Idris was already setting up mock shields. Tarek waved her over. Lala stood nearby, arms folded. Sophia joined their line as Idris called out exercises. Today, shield and scimitar coordination, he announced. Pairs advance and defend in staggered sequence. They practiced pivoting behind wooden shields, blocking overhead strikes, and countering with diagonal cuts. Sophia's shoulders screamed in protest, but she kept adjusting stance until Idris grunted approval. Sweat dripped off her chin. Lala paired with her and pushed aggressively, clearly resentful of the attention Sophia drew. During a break, Lala muttered, "One whisper from Celine and half the yard forgets you're wolfless." "Then I'll remind them with steel, not whispers," Sophia replied, drinking water. Layla snorted. "Steel obeys wolves before men, runt." When drills ended, Idris motioned Sophia aside. "Hold your shield higher on blocks," he said. "Everything else is improving." She bowed. "Thank you, I'll correct it." As she left the yard for midday meal, servants hurried past, whispering about a sandstorm approaching. Sky at the horizon chalked pale tan, a sign of wind from the interior deserts. Sophia brushed dust off her sleeves and headed toward the refectory, but paused when she saw Bashir arguing quietly with Arslan at the base of a mosaic-lined stair. She ducked behind a pillar within earshot. "Her progress exceeds your predictions," Bashir said. Arslan's arms were crossed, brows drawn. "Progress doesn't breed worth." "Your wolf claims otherwise." A growl, low and unmistakable, vibrated the air. Arslan's voice dropped even lower. "My wolf seeks comfort in illusions. I remind him of reality." Sophia could not hear the wolf's reply, but she saw Arslan's shoulders tense as though resisting a force inside. Bashir continued, gentler. "She survived invasion, desert march, and your personal trials. Weakness is not the word I'd choose." Arslan turned sharply toward the corridor leading to his chambers. "Strength without a wolf is a blade without a hilt. It cuts the bearer first." He stalked off, cloak snapping. Bashir sighed and pressed fingers to his brow before following. Sophia flattened against the pillar, heart hammering. So his wolf truly fought him. The knowledge prickled with both hope and dread. She hurried to the refectory where novices crowded long tables. Tarek saved her a spot. "You look pale," he said, sliding a bowl of lentil stew her way. "Did Lala gut you?" "Only with sarcasm." She forced a smile and tasted stew, steadying breath. Tarek chatted about shield angles. His easy manner eased knots in her stomach. When the meal ended, she excused herself to visit Thora and Lena in the servant quarters, hoping for calm before facing the harem again. A courtyard path skirted the outer wall, shaded by date palms. As Sophia approached a marble archway, she heard soft weeping. Rounding a corner, she found Lena pressed against rough stone, Zara looming above. "Pretty little pup," Zara crooned. "Tell me, do you like living with traitors?" Lena shook her head silently, tear tracks glistening. "Then stay clear of Sophia, choose friends carefully." Zara's wolf flickered amber behind her eyes. She raised a hand as if to strike. "Enough," Sophia said, stepping forward. Zara turned, slow and smiling. "How timely," she drawled. "I worry you tire of steel and crave other battles." "You threaten a child for amusement?" "For strategy. Remove pieces from the board before they hinder play." Zara's wolf laughed inside her tone. "This one is easily broken." Sophia's fists clenched. She took a breath, recalling Bashir's warning. "Touch her, and Idris will train with a new dummy. He enjoys live targets." Zara's lips parted, baring dainty fangs. Aliyah padded into the courtyard then, eyes calm. "Zara, the vizier requests your presence," she said. Zara flicked invisible dust from her sleeve. "I'll come when the air smells less northern." She brushed past, skirts whispering. Aliyah crouched beside Lena, checking for bruises. Sophia knelt too. "I'm okay," Lena murmured, voice watery. Sophia kissed her temple. "Stay with Thora. I'll visit this evening." Lena nodded, clutching Sophia's hand until she rose. Aliyah stood as well. Zara is not easily deterred, but humiliating her publicly hurts her pride more than bruises. "I'll keep that in mind," Sophia said. "Be careful." Aaliyah warned. Celine encourages Zara's spite. They share ambition, like bones share marrow. Sophia thanked her and returned to her chamber to stretch sore muscles. After sunset, she slipped back to the courtyard for solitary drills, determined to refine the shield angle Idris noted. Wind carried sand across the palace grounds, torches burned lower to prevent embers catching. She trained until sweat cut streaks through settling dust on her skin. At the far end of the yard she sensed Arslan under the arcade, half his face lit by torch flare. His wolf growled a low greeting she could not hear but felt. She lowered her weapon. "I wondered if Sand would chase trainees indoors," he said. "I'm not a trainee anymore, apparently," she replied, wiping grit from her forehead. His eyes flickered. Meaning? In the harem today, flower was the term. Arslan's jaw tightened. Celine exceeded instruction. Sophia lifted the wooden shield. "I'd rather train than wilt." He stepped onto the sand. "Then train." He drew his sword halfway, glinting steel. "Block real steel without flinching." She swallowed. Idris wouldn't approve. "My yard, my rules." He advanced, blade tilted. She raised the shield. The first strike echoed, reverberating up her arms. Pain bit, but she held. He circled, testing. She pivoted, sand sliding under bare feet. Second strike rattled her elbow. She almost dropped the shield. His wolf urged him again. She saw tension flicker across his cheek. He pressed, and she blocked, then rolled aside, catching a glancing blow on her bicep. He paused. Yield. No. Stubborn as ever. Afraid of a wolfless girl? His eyes burned. He lunged. She caught the blade on the rim, twisted, angled downward. Sparks flared. Adrenaline flooded her limbs. She stepped inside, slammed the shield into his shoulder. Surprise flickered. He kicked her shin instinctively. Pain exploded, but she stayed upright. His wolf's voice thundered in the air. "She is ours. Accept." Sophia couldn't hear words, but she sensed a crackling tension that made her skin buzz. Arslan stepped back, blade lowering. "Enough." "Why stop?" she panted. "Because next stroke draws blood." He sheathed the sword. "You proved your point." "What point is that?" "That steel respects determination." She held his gaze. "Does the Sultan?" A beat of silence. "Respect is earned in smaller steps than you think." He turned away, adding softer, "Rest the leg." He disappeared. Sophia exhaled shakily, leg throbbing where he kicked. She limped to a stone bench, massaging the bruise. A hot prickle spread from the aching shin up to her chest, as if a current sparked under her skin. Back in her room, she bathed dust away. Thora brought salve for the bruise and listened as Sophia recounted the confrontation with Zara. The elder's gaze hardened. "Bullies test thresholds," Thora said. "Show them stone, not mud." "Stone breaks. Not if fire forges it first." Midnight brought restless sleep. The dream returned, brighter. Marble corridors shifted into a vast hall crowned by a glass dome. The silver-nosed wolf circled Sophia, eyes glinting blue fire. Words formed like wind across dunes, soft, ancient syllables. Asena. Hope seemed to flood Sophia's veins. The wolf lowered its head, pressing nose to her chest. Heat surged. She woke with a gasp, palm burning. Opening her hand, she saw nothing, only faint warmth fading. Next morning, Idris called a sparring tournament. Novices lined up. Spectators poured in, including several harem women. Zara perched on a balcony, silk fans hiding her mouth. Tarek faced Sophia in the first bracket. He winked and attacked with playful flourish. She parried, sidestepped, tapped his ribs. He grinned, bowed exaggeratedly as Idris declared her winner. She advanced through brackets, each opponent stronger. Lala forced her near the ropes. Sophia pivoted, slipped under a high thrust, and touched Lala's back. Applause scattered among spectators. Sweat drenched her tunic. Final match. Senior trainee Malik, broader, faster. They circled. He feinted right, truly left. She barely blocked. Shields clashed. He pressed. She ducked. Shield banging his knee, then punched pommel against his shoulder. He stumbled. Gasps erupted. Malik snarled, wolf glint in his eyes, swung heavy. She raised shield high, absorbing impact. Wood splintered, her arm numbed. She dropped low, swept his legs. He fell. She pointed training blade at his throat. Silence, then cheers from unexpected voices. Some novices, even a few palace guards. Idris stepped forward. Victor, Sophia. She lowered the blade, breathing hard. Sight shifted beyond the ring to Arslan standing in the shade of a pillar, expression unreadable, but his wolf's pride washed over the yard like a hot gust. Zara's fingers snapped her fan shut, eyes cold. Idris motioned her over. You fought smart, he said. Not prettily, but war seldom cares for beauty. Thank you. Malik will nurse ego tonight, ignore him. Should I ignore the harem too? She asked. Better than feeding them. Idris handed her water. Let your sword answer. The afternoon lessons concluded. As Sophia limped from the yard, sandstorm winds finally arrived, pelting the palace with grit. Servants shuttered windows. Dust blurred lanterns. Inside her chamber, Lena braided Sophia's damp hair while humming a lullaby from the northern valleys. Thora brewed willow bark tea for bruises. Comfort glowed in the small room. Outside, grit lashed walls like claws on shields. Somewhere deeper within the palace, Arslan stood on the southern balcony overlooking swirling sand. Bashir approached, cloak snapping. You saw the match, Bashir said. I banned tournaments for months, Arslan replied, voice hoarse. Idris defied orders. Yet she thrived. Arslan's wolf spoke within. Smug. A mate of flame, strong enough. Arslan clenched fists. Strength is not proof of destiny, he muttered aloud. Bashir studied him. She bleeds yet rises, maybe destiny chooses such blood. Arslan turned, eyes searing. I lost one mate to destiny. I'll not bend to it again. The wolf snarled. You deny yourself, it hurts. Arslan pressed palms to the balustrade, breathing through the discord. Bashir laid a hand on his shoulder, then stepped back, leaving him alone with wind and inner voices. Night fell early under sand-heavy clouds. Sophia crept to the deserted baths, hoping heat would soothe muscle knots. Steam curled up mosaicked walls. Lanterns flickered. She slipped into the pool, water lapping bruises. In the hush, she let herself float, ears underwater, heartbeat drumming. She rose to find Celine standing at the edge, veil shifting. Enjoying privileges? Recovering, Sophia said, moving to the steps. Celine handed her a towel of fine linen, gaze sharp. The Sultan watches you. Power attracts storms, and storms drown the unprepared. Does power make you kind to storms or fearful of them? Sophia asked. Celine's lips curved. Neither, it makes me shape them. She turned. Beware, northern girl. Even the strongest trees snap in desert winds. The door closed behind her. Sophia exhaled a long breath. Towel clutched tight. As she dressed, she whispered, Asena, if you're real, I need more than dreams. No answer, yet her pulse answered, thudding fierce. She returned to her chamber to find a bundle on her bed. New leather bracers, sturdier shield straps, and salve for bruises. A single note lay atop, unsigned. Well-earned. Keep forging. She traced the handwriting, recognizing strokes from Idris, but the scent clinging to parchment spoke of cedar and steel. She tucked the note beneath her pillow, heart-warming despite storm winds rattling shutters. Sleep claimed her swiftly. In dreams, the silver-nosed wolf stood beside her at the edge of a cliff overlooking dunes. This time, its voice formed clearer thought. Soon. Daughter of moon and storm. Soon. She woke at dawn, the storm spent, sky scrubbed clean. Her limbs ached, but something inside felt stronger, as if the night had forged new sinew in her spirit. She rose, tightened the new bracers, and prepared to face whatever trials waited in the Sultan's sun-washed palace. Sophia rose before dawn, her muscles still singing with yesterday's victories and bruises. She laced the new bracers tight, testing the fit with a few shadow punches, then slipped into the courtyard where torches guttered in pre-dawn hush. Stars lingered overhead, paling as the first streaks of rose touched the horizon. She began footwork drills, breathing deep to keep each motion fluid. Sand puffed beneath her heels. Halfway through a sequence, a presence settled at the edge of her awareness. She finished the cut, turned, and found Arslan leaning against a pillar flanked by unlit braziers, arms folded over a loose shirt, the color of storm clouds. "You never tire," he said quietly. "Tired enough to make mistakes, never enough to stop," she answered, lowering her sword. "You fought well yesterday." He paused as if admitting it cost him. "Better than some who've trained years." "Steel respects determination, so you told me." His gaze flicked to the painted sky. "Determination is valuable, sometimes dangerous." He pushed from the pillar. "Bashir waits in the armory. He'll escort you to a private session." "Another test? Call it evaluation." He hesitated as though battling words, then turned and vanished into the corridor. In the armory, Bashir handed her a blunted scimitar reinforced with a metal edge thick enough to bruise, but not cut. "The Sultan wishes to measure more than technique," he said. "He wants to see what drives you under pressure." Sophia rolled her shoulders. "Will Celine or Zara watch?" "Only Idris, myself, and the Sultan. Fewer distractions." Bashir met her gaze. "Remember, wounds earned in truth heal stronger than bruises earned in mockery." The private arena lay beneath the palace, lit by skylights that captured new sun. Idris adjusted his beard as Sophia entered, nodding approval of her stance. Arslan waited inside the ring, sword sheathed, but aura coiled tight. Idris and Bashir took positions at opposite edges. No audience, no silk fans, just cool air and echoes. "Begin," Arslan said, drawing real steel once more. The metallic ring cracked like thunder. Sophia circled, shield raised. Arslan attacked fast, blade flashing silver. She blocked, pivoted, answered with a horizontal slash. He parried, responding with a thrust that rattled her shield arm. She forced herself to stay calm, searching for patterns. Seconds blurred as they traded strikes, steel on steel, wood on steel, her reflexes barely keeping pace. His wolf's presence surged with each clash, a tidal hum she felt more than heard. Arslan pressed harder, forcing her backward. Sweat stung her eyes. She blinked, breathed, angled her shield, and snapped a counter at his ribs. Metal met flesh with a dull thud, where blunted edge struck. He grunted, step back, eyes narrowing. "You hesitate," he growled. "Only to find openings. Openings are invitations for death." He lunged, speed sudden, blade whistling. She dropped, rolled, shield scraping stone. As she rose, his sword tapped her collarbone with a light but emphatic kiss of steel. "Yield," he ordered. She stared up, chest heaving, yet lifted her sword instead of dropping it. "No." His eyes flared. Inside his mind, the wolf's roar spilled into the room like hot wind. Sophia couldn't decipher words, but the fury and need washed over her, raising gooseflesh. Arslan's jaw clenched. He shoved down the blade, deliberately missing her throat by a whisper. "You are reckless," he snapped. "You test me to break me," she shot back, scrambling to her feet. "If you want surrender, command it." "I want truth," he said, voice roughened. "Fate claims you as my mate. I refuse a fate that replaces the strong with the fragile." The confession slammed into the silence. Idris shifted, startled. Bashir closed his eyes briefly. Sophia's pulse thundered. "Mate," she echoed. "I'm wolfless. What bond could—" "Exactly," Arslan hissed. "A bond built on weakness." His wolf snarled in protest, rattling the ring. "The oracle bands lied. Sophia's throat tightened. So you punish me for a prophecy you despise? I punish folly before it grows. Then strike me down, she said, spreading arms. If I'm so unworthy, end this now. Her voice shook, but she held his gaze. Sword trembled in his grip. The wolf raged louder, begging acceptance. Arslan slammed the blade back into its sheath and turned away. Leave, he rasped, shoulders rigid. Idris, dismiss her! Idris ushered Sophia out. She walked woodenly, chest aching worse than any bruise. Bashir followed, brow creased. He forgets his pain is not the only one, he murmured. He reminded me well enough, she replied, voice hoarse. Bashir opened a side door leading to a narrow hall. Breathe, child. Heal in strength, not spite. I can heal only myself, she said, pushing past him. Outside, midday heat climbed. She stumbled toward the servants' wing, throat burning. Celine appeared at a balcony as if summoned by misery, smile serpentine. I wondered when glass would crack, she called. Sophia ignored her, but Zara stepped out from behind a column, holding a jug. Thirsty northern flower? She tipped the jug. Water hissed across sun-baked stone in front of Sophia's boots. Oops! Sophia stopped, fists curling. Zara's wolf purred inside hazel eyes. Aaliyah arrived, placed herself between them. Careful, Zara. Whetstone is slippery, she said. Zara's smile tightened. So is ambition. She retreated, silk swirling. Aaliyah faced Sophia. Bruises heal, words linger. Eat, rest, then strike back with victories. I'm tired of victories that taste like ashes, Sophia whispered. They won't always. Aaliyah squeezed her arm and left. Sophia found Thora in the infirmary steeping herbs. Lena sat on a stool, sewing torn cloth. When Sophia entered, Lena's face brightened, then fell at her expression. He hurt you, Lena said softly. Not the way you think. Sophia managed a faint smile. Can you spare a willow tonic, Thora? Thora poured steaming brew into a cup. This men's body, not heart. Time will handle the heart, Sophia said, sipping. Warmth spread through aching muscles, but not the hollow in her chest. Evening descended in streaks of copper and violet. A cooling breeze swept sand from the courtyards. Sophia climbed to the highest rooftop terrace she could find and watched the sun dip behind desert ridges. Loneliness pressed heavy, yet within it something stirred. Hope or hunger, she couldn't tell. She inhaled the scent of jasmine carried on the breeze and closed her eyes. In Arslan's private chamber, torchlight flickered against limestone walls. He paced, boots scuffing rugs. Every step met his wolf's relentless voice. She is strength cloaked in waiting. You deny her. You deny us. He pressed palms over ears, though the voice was inside. Memory of her standing with arms spread, daring death, burned brighter than the desert sun. She is fragile, he whispered. The wolf growled, low and sorrowful. Fragile like steel forged thin and sharp. Deny fear, not bond. Arslan's throat closed around grief. Images of his first mate, bloodied in his arms, flashed behind his eyes. I cannot lose another, he choked. Lose her now by choice, the wolf replied, or gain her forever by courage. He sank to a cushioned bench, hands shaking. Outside the window, night settled, bright with constellations. Sophia slipped quietly into the silent bath halls long after lamps had been lowered. The vast pool mirrored the stars through high latticework. She knelt at the water's edge, breathing in the damp warmth. She spoke into the darkness. I may be fragile, but I'm alive. If fate means me to be more, then show me how. Water lapped softly. With trembling fingers she touched the surface. Ripples spread in concentric rings, shimmering silver under starlight. Heat bloomed beneath her ribs, steady, insistent. She closed her eyes and felt its rhythm. Heartbeat. Another pulse beneath it, deeper. She breathed deep. A whisper brushed her mind, not a word but a sense of acknowledgement. The silver-nosed wolf's presence curled around her consciousness like a protective cape, fierce and tender. She opened her eyes. The water lay smooth again. She dipped both hands, splashing coolness over her face, washing away dust and tears. Late that night, thunder cracked in the distance. A rare summer storm rolled across the southern dunes. The palace hummed with electricity, banners whipping on turrets. In the servants' corridor, shutters rattled. Sophia stood at her small window watching lightning flash. Each jagged flare illuminated palm fronds heaving like sea waves. She pressed her palms to the sill and whispered, "I won't break." Lena stirred in her sleep, murmuring Sophia's name. Thora's soft snores drifted from the cot. Sophia tucked blankets around Lena, then lay on her own pallet, eyes on the ceiling. Wind moaned around tiles, but inside, an answering strength coiled. Asena waiting, the name echoing through her bones. She drifted into dreams of an endless desert under moonlight. Footprints glowed silver across dunes, leading to a pavilion of white silk. The wolf stood guarding the entrance. Sophia approached, heart steady for once. "Soon," the wolf conveyed, amber eyes fierce. "Awaken with the storm." A clap of thunder jolted her awake. Rain hammered the roof at last, a fierce welcome to thirsty sands. She smiled into the dark, heart beating with a rhythm that no longer felt like just her own. Sophia slipped into the yard while dawn was still a faint smear of violet above the ramparts. Torches sputtered, throwing restless shadows over the pale sand. She drew her practice blade, inhaled the chilly air, and began a silent dance of strikes and counters. Each movement felt sharper than the one before, like the edge of her determination had been honed during the long, sleepless night. Muscles complained, but she folded the ache into her rhythm and drove her boots deeper, letting grit bite her soles as if the earth itself were testing balance. The hiss of sand beneath each pivot became a steady drumbeat that steadied her mind and drowned the uneasy echo of yesterday's pain. Idris emerged from the colonnade, gray streaks framing a look of wary approval. "Already at it," he said, voice low enough not to shatter the fragile morning hush. She didn't pause, sliding into a defensive stance instead of offering greeting. He watched a while, arms folded, then stepped closer. "Your guard is tighter, but don't overextend that right shoulder." He tapped the leather just above her elbow. "You'll gift an opponent the opening you hated yesterday." Sophia adjusted, repeated the sequence, felt the flow improve. Idris nodded once and stepped back. "Push hard, but not past breaking. I've no patience for students who spend their energy nursing torn tendons." Tarek jogged into the yard minutes later, wind-ruffled hair still damp from a bath he must have taken at the crack of dawn. "The sun complained you left bed before it," he teased, grabbing a wooden shield from the rack. Sophia let herself smile. Sun's a late riser, apparently. They moved together, trading slow practice blows. Tarek's grin slipped as he noticed her faster parries and the iron in her stare. "You're going to leave the rest of us choking on dust." She countered with a low sweep that would have clipped his knee if he hadn't hopped back. "Then keep up," she said, pulse steady despite the playful barb. He gave a mock salute with the shield and redoubled his pace. Behind them, Lala leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, supposedly stretching her calves. She said nothing, only tracked Sophia's every pivot. Yesterday, those watchers' eyes had been contemptuous. This morning, they were measuring. When Idris called the formal session to order, Lala moved into the sparring circle opposite a lanky boy but kept half her attention on Sophia's match with Tarek. At the end of the drill, she approached to reset practice weapons and paused. "Shield angle was better," she muttered, voice stiff with reluctance. Sophia blinked at the unexpected remark. Thank you." Lala shrugged and walked off before the compliment could gather weight. Breakfast in the refectory meant rows of stone tables and a low, dull roar of conversation. Sophia carried her tin plate toward Tarek and Lale when Zara's bright laugh sliced through the clamor. The harem's lead consort reclined on a cushioned bench near the entrance, flanked by two younger she-wolves who poured sweet tea into delicate cups. Zara's gaze snagged on Sophia. "Careful," she called, voice gliding over talk like oil over water. "Training dust clings to those who sweat too much. Wouldn't want it in anyone's bread." A few novices smirked, others frowned. Sophia kept walking. She set her plate down and met Zara's stare in a calm, unbroken line, until the consort lifted her cup again, throat tightening around unsaid words. Aaliyah appeared at Sophia's side after the meal, her eyes soft and sea green, flicked toward the harem table. "Zara's claws sharpen whenever silence answers her," she warned. "Expect something more creative than insult soon." Sophia considered that, then calmly folded the linen she'd used as a napkin. "Silence isn't weakness," she said. "It's space to swing." Aaliyah's lips curved in a ghost of approval. "Just remember she commands more shadows than sunlight. Wear armor you can't see." Later, while washing dust from a tunic in the small laundry court, Sophia found the garment's right sleeve slashed just below the shoulder seam, a neat, careful cut that would rip open the instant she lifted her arm in practice. No one was around, but the faint scent of Zara's rose oil lingered under the soap and steam. Sophia exhaled through her nose and carried the tunic to Thora in the infirmary. The elder's hands were steady with needle and thread despite her years. "Poison rarely lies in the blade," Thora murmured while stitching. "It settles in the wound afterward if you let it." Sophia nodded, noting the advice as another lesson to fold into muscle and marrow. She thanked Thora and stepped into the central garden, hoping for a moment of stillness. Sunlight filtered through trellised vines heavy with purple blossoms. Birds chattered overhead. She almost missed the soft click of sandals on stone until Zara's voice drifted near a marble fountain. One would think a northern waif would appreciate gifts. Sophia turned to find the consort gliding closer, Aaliyah a few paces behind, expression tense. Zara produced a small dagger from her sleeve, its jeweled hilt glinting. "Shall I teach you sewing, or are tunics too advanced?" Sophia's pulse jumped, but she forced her voice calm. "I prefer steel with more bite." Zara's laugh rang sweet and brittle. "Bite is earned, not borrowed." Sophia stepped nearer, refusing to back away. "Then call for a proper match. Otherwise, keep playing dressmaker." Murmurs rose from women at the garden's edge. Zara's smile flattened. She sheathed the dagger and brushed past, perfume swirling like a threat. Aaliyah lingered, eyes shining with pride. "The garden grows thorns," she whispered before following. From a shaded corridor on the second level, Arslan watched the exchange. The breeze fluttered the hem of his tunic, but he hardly felt it. His attention fixed on the way Sophia straightened her shoulders, on the spark in her eyes that hadn't existed weeks ago. His wolf paced inside his chest like a caged storm. "She grows into the strength we sensed," the wolf insisted. "You deny her, you deny us." Arslan clenched the carved balustrade hard enough to blanch knuckles. "She courts danger," he murmured. The wolf snarled. "She meets danger. She will match us." Shame and longing tangled like twin blades in Arslan's gut. Bashir found him there and waited until the silence stretched thin. "You can't watch forever," he said. Arslan's jaw tightened. "Observation is safer than engagement." Bashir's gaze flicked toward the garden below, where Sophia now practiced slow spear forms alone. "Safe for whom?" he asked gently. Arslan's throat worked. "For everyone." The wolf scoffed. "For no one. We were forged for her." Bashir stepped forward, voice low. "Strength sometimes hides behind fear, my friend. Don't mistake self-preservation for wisdom." Arslan's eyes flashed with old pain. "I learned wisdom in blood," he said, then turned on heel, leaving Bashir to the fresh scent of crushed blossoms and the distant echo of a lonely sparring rhythm. Sophia continued spear drills until sweat soaked through the repaired tunic. She felt eyes on her even when the garden emptied, a pressure at the nape of her neck like warm breath. Each thrust blurred into the next until the pole vibrated in her palms and the world narrowed to the whisper of wood through air. The inner warmth she'd sensed in previous days suddenly pulsed, expanding in her chest like a second heartbeat. She froze, spear tip hovering. A faint sensation, protective, fierce, wrapped around her spine before fading just as quickly. She swallowed hard. Not imagination. Asena, she thought, the name ringing silent bells in her skull even though she had never truly spoken it. Her hand tightened on the spear shaft. "I know you're there," she murmured. No word replied, but warmth answered nonetheless. Lala intercepted Sophia on her way back to the barracks. She frowned at the torn sleeve now neatly mended. "Zara's games escalate," she said quietly. Sophia blinked at the sudden concern. "You speak as if you mind." Lila shrugged. "I'm no friend to northern outsiders, but I dislike cowards." She hesitated, then added, "Your pivot mid-parry this morning. Show me again sometime." Sophia gave a small nod. "Tomorrow, before sunrise?" Lale looked surprised, then pleased, and strode off. That night Thora rubbed liniment into Sophia's aching shoulders. Candlelight flickered over rows of tinctures. "Rest matters," Thora said. "Even swords break if hammered without quenching." Sophia rolled her neck. "Sleep feels like surrender." Thora smiled sadly. "Sleep is battlefield and refuge both. Dreams know truths. Daylight forgets." Sophia remembered flashes of moonlit halls and a silver wolf. "I'm starting to believe that," she whispered. She tried to rest, yet the moment her eyes drifted shut, the luminous corridor unfolded again. Pillars of white stone stretched skyward, their bases wreathed in pale fire. The black wolf with the silver nose paced before an arched doorway, impatience in every lash of its tail. Sophia moved toward it. This time, when she reached out, she felt the hot press of breath against her palm. A tremor of recognition raced through her veins. No words, just presence. Ancient, certain. She startled awake, the image flickering like lightning behind closed lids. Wind rattled the shutters. She pushed up on her pallet, heart hammering. "Asena," she breathed into the shadows. The warmth returned, throbbing beneath her ribs. She hugged herself, senses tingling with new certainty that something deep within had heard and answered. Above, the sleeping palace cloud slid across the moon. In his private quarters, Arslan stood shirtless at the window, sweat cooling on his skin after a failed attempt to run memories from his mind. His wolf prowled just beneath, pressing fiery paws against the bars of his denial. "Let her in," it pleaded. "We cannot hold against the tide." Arslan squeezed the window ledge and bowed his head. "If the tide drowns her too?" Pain tightened his chest. The wolf's reply rumbled within. "Better to swim together than watch her drown alone." Arslan closed his eyes, breathing her name without sound, then turned away, shoulders heavy with unresolved storms. Sophia rose before the courtyard lanterns had been doused, a fragile gray dawn pooling over roof tiles slick from night mist. The air tasted of damp iron. She strapped on her repaired tunic and bracers, but a prickling sense of unease clung to her skin. As she crossed the garden, she noticed petals scattered like crimson coins on the path, roses from Zara's favored bushes, torn and trodden. Bad omen, she thought, though she refused to show it. Captain Idris was already waiting in the training yard, arms folded, eyes steely beneath thick brows. Tariq, Lala, and half the novices stood in a loose semicircle around a raised platform that had not been there yesterday. 2 torch poles flanked it, flaring despite the gray light. Atop the platform paced a tall warrior clad in midnight armor, helm under one arm, expression carved from stone. He looked older than most soldiers, but carried himself like a man. who had never tasted defeat. Sophia slowed. Idris's voice was low but carried. "This is Captain Nadir. He commands the Sultan's frontline phalanx. Today he spars a volunteer to demonstrate advanced footwork." His gaze slid to Sophia. She felt dozens of eyes follow. The prickle intensified. She stepped forward before her courage could wilt. "I'll go," she said, pulse drumming. Lala whispered something behind her, half warning, half awe. Tarek shifted uneasily. Idris merely inclined his head, though a shadow crossed his features. Nadir's dark eyes raked Sophia from boots to braid. His lips curved in the barest nod. He drew 2 polished wooden scimitars from a rack on the platform and tossed her one. It spun once in the air. She caught it by the leather grip, noting its heavier weight. "Rule is simple," Nadir said, voice rough as gravel. "Stay standing." Sophia mounted the platform. The boards flexed under their combined weight. She squared her stance, heartbeat thudding in her ears. Idris signaled with a lowered hand. Nadir attacked immediately. No testing jabs, only a full, sweeping arc. She blocked by instinct, arms shuddering. Shock jarred her bones. He followed with a low thrust. She danced back, breath hissing. Sandbags under the planks muffled steps, making his boots almost silent. He pressed, each strike precise, trying to crowd her edge. She angled away, using the platform's width, remembering Idris's lessons. Keep knees bent, anticipate the next blade rather than react to the current one. Crowd murmurs blurred. Nadir scored a glancing blow on her shoulder. Blunted wood, but force enough to bruise. She countered with a diagonal cut, surprising him. The crack of contact rang through the yard. A male voice called approval. "Lale?" Nadir's brows lifted. "Not bad." He pivoted and slammed the scimitar down. She blocked overhead, knees almost buckling. Pain streaked her arms. As she slid sideways, her right boot caught on something. A slick smear of oil, barely visible, glistened on the board. She wrenched free a heartbeat before his blade touched where her head had been. The deliberate sabotage flashed in her mind. Zara's roses crushed in the garden. Maybe she'd bribed a servant to grease the platform at dawn. Anger fueled adrenaline. She spun low, swiping at Nadir's ankle. He leapt, twirled midair, and landed with blade outstretched inches from her rib. She parried, drove her shoulder into his chest, pushing him back. Gasps erupted as she regained footing. From the cloister arch, Arslan watched, arms folded tight, golden eyes narrow. His wolf exhaled a pleased growl Sophia couldn't hear, but felt bristle across the air. She risked glancing toward him. Heat surged up her spine. "Focus," she scolded herself. Nadir shifted tactics, launching a rapid flurry. Sophia blocked, slipped, caught herself, then lunged under his guard and struck his hip. Wood thudded. Surprise flickered across his face. Respect followed. He stepped back, circling. She felt it then. A throb beneath her ribs, echoing the pulse in her throat, but deeper, older. Asina. The warmth spread, chasing away ache, sharpening sight. Nadir charged. She read his movement fractions sooner and sidestepped, pivoting to slice his exposed flank. He twisted at the last second, blade humming past her ear. Split ends of hair drifted down. He lunged again, this time a feint into a spinning backhand. As he turned, her foot skidded across another slick patch. Balance tipped. She would fall. His scimitar would scuff her temple and declare his win. The heat flared into a blazing surge. Time thickened. Something inside roared a single command. Rise. Her muscles obeyed with startling speed, weight shifting to her other foot. She ducked under his swing, came up wrapped in fire and instinct, and jabbed. The wooden blade halted at his throat, breath away. Silence. Then cheers erupted, scattered but genuine. Tarek whooped, fists pumping. Lale shouted, "Yes!" before clapping a hand over her mouth. Nadir's brows climbed. He stepped back, touched the tip of the sword still at his throat, then pushed it gently aside. "Yield," he said. voice calm if winded. He dropped to one knee in salute. Murmurs spread. Custom dictated only nobles deserved that span of respect. Arslan strode forward. Idris joined him. The Sultan's gaze swept over the oiled patch glinting under torchlight, then locked on Sophia's battered stance. Storm brewed in his eyes. He ascended the platform. "Who prepared this?" he asked, voice cold enough to frost glass. No one answered. He sniffed lightly, catching rose and spice. His gaze flicked toward the distant harem corridor. His wolf snarled. "Sabotage against our mate." Sophia swayed, exhaustion crashing now that heat faded. Her sword arm trembled. Arslan reached to steady her before thinking, fingers closing around her elbow. The touch sparked energy through her bones, startling them both. She stiffened but didn't pull away. Gasps rippled. He released her quickly. "Escort Captain Nadir to the medic," Arslan told Idris. "Commendation for honorable display." He turned to Sophia. "And you, come." He jumped off the platform without waiting, striding toward the palace. Whispers chased them. Speculation fermented like wine. Inside a sparsely furnished room near the training yard, Arslan motioned for her to sit on a low bench. Bashir entered behind them, closing the door. Sophia swallowed against the drum in her ears. "I wanted to test limits," Arslan said, pacing. "I didn't sanction sabotage." She lifted her chin. "I handled it." His jaw flexed. "You could have cracked your skull." "I could have, but I didn't." The ember flared, Asena's pride echoing her words. She heard a vague hum, a buried purr. Arslan's wolf spoke in his mind, approval mixing with desire. "Claim her. Stop punishing us." Arslan grimaced, rubbing stiff fingers along his temple. Bashir intervened. "Sabotage means enemies inside. Zara, perhaps. But jealousy cuts deeper when unchallenged." He looked at Sophia. "You earned more than respect today. Rumors will spread faster than wildfire." She exhaled. "That's not my aim." "Nevertheless," Bashir said gently, "your courage ignited them." He faced Arslan. "Every witness saw you move to protect her." Arslan's cheeks darkened. "I would protect any trainee endangered by foul play." "We both know that's not why your wolf roared out in the yard," Bashir said quietly. Silence thickened. Sophia broke it. "Your wolf?" she asked. Arslan's gaze snapped to hers, pained and resentful. He turned away. Bashir guided her to the infirmary. Thora tisked over bruises, smoothed salve across reddened skin. As fingers worked, Thora murmured a prayer to ancient moon spirits. Sophia's eyelids drooped. Visions flickered, a moonlit palace courtyard paved in white crystal. A woman in a silver thread gown standing in an arch, arms open. The black wolf with the silver nose looming beside her like a guardian. Sophia inhaled sharply. Thora paused. "You saw something?" The elder whispered. A glimpse of roots buried deep. Sophia licked dry lips. A palace. Flames of moonlight. And a mother I lost. Thora's owl-bright eyes softened. "Truth waits to be claimed, child. Keep seeking." That evening, palace courtyards buzzed with gossip. Tarek told anyone who would listen how Sophia outmaneuvered Nadir. Lala silently echoed the story, eyes shining with something like loyalty. Zara strained to control whispers. She summoned her clique, but uneasy glances spread among them. Aliyah visited Sophia in the infirmary, bringing fresh bread and honey. "You humiliated her," she said quietly, pride obvious. "She's plotting." Sophia's throat tightened. "Let her plan. I'll keep training." Night fell heavy. Sophia slipped outside, barefoot on cool stone, chasing air that tasted of distant rain. The main courtyard lay deserted under torchlight. She hesitated, then walked to the center, breathing slow. Heat pulsed again under her sternum. She closed her eyes. "Asena," she whispered, steady voice. "Show me." A warm breeze curled around her, though the air had been still. In her mind, a door swung open. Marble halls returned, but clearer, brighter. She stood on a dais carved with swirling runes. The silver-nosed wolf padded forward. This time its voice was a cascade of feelings shaped into words. I am here. We are one. Sophia's breath caught. Why now? She asked inside the dream. Because you chose courage over fear. The wolf brushed its muzzle against her chest. Memories rushed in, images of her as a toddler chasing glowing fireflies in a lush courtyard. A man in moon-white armor lifting her into swirling night. A crest shaped like entwined moons crowned by a silver wolf. The magic pack. Sophia gasped awake on her feet, knees weak. Dawn was nowhere. Only the hush of midnight and the knowledge roaring inside, a certainty she was not wolfless, never had been. She was royalty of the long-lost pack who wielded genie magic. The truth hammered like a drum. She sank to the ground, laughing and crying at once, arms wrapped around herself as warmth enveloped her in fierce embrace. Asena, fully awake, settled inside her mind with contented triumph, a voice ready to guide. Minutes or hours later she rose, resolve hard as tempered steel. Tomorrow she would face Zara, the harem, the whispers, and Arslan himself with new eyes. The daughter of the magic pack would not bow to fate, she would shape it. On a high balcony, Arslan felt a surge of energy ripple through the bond, electric and undeniable. His wolf lifted its head, howling inside his chest in exultation. The moment he had feared and yearned for had arrived. He gripped the rail until his knuckles whitened. Sophia, he whispered into the night, fear and wonder braided tight. Below, she looked up, sensing him even through darkness. Their eyes did not meet, yet both felt the shift. Nothing now could stay the tide. A rim of gold crept over the horizon, tinting the palace tiles pink as morning trumpets sounded. Sophia lay awake on her pallet, pulse steady, Asena's presence wrapped around her like a warm cloak. She felt no exhaustion despite a sleepless night. Instead, there was an effervescent clarity humming beneath her skin, as though new sinew had grown beneath every bruise. Lena stirred beside her and blinked up. You're glowing, the girl whispered, half-dazed. Must be the sunrise, Sophia teased, smoothing Lena's hair. She rose, laced her boots, and stepped into the corridor. Even the stone beneath her feet seemed to hum back recognition. In the training yard, Captain Idris raised a brow the instant he saw her. You look taller. Feeling lighter, she replied, spinning the practice blade once before he could question. Tarek jogged in, offered a mock salute. Ready to terrify more captains today? He asked. We'll see who shakes first. She winked and slid into position. They began with partner drills. Every block, every feint felt preordained. Asena whispered angles into Sophia's muscles. Lala, sparring nearby, tripped on her own surprise when Sophia caught a returning cut mid-air and redirected it into a graceful disarm. Wood clacked to the sand. Lala gaped, then let out a stunned laugh. I was trying to compliment you, she muttered, retrieving the weapon. You did, Sophia answered, offering a hand. Lala took it, respect settling like a new treaty. From the upper terrace, Arslan watched, one palm braced against a carved pillar. His wolf surged with pride. She changed overnight, the wolf crowed. We must stand at her side. Arslan's gut twisted. Reverence battled dread. Bashir approached. You feel it too, he said softly. I feel a storm I cannot name, Arslan whispered back. Name it or not, it is upon us, and you can't close the gates this time. Arslan's reply was lost in a roar from the yard. Zara swept in with half the harem, silks snapping, eyes glittering. She strode straight to the edge of the sparring ring. Morning drills grow dull, she announced, voice bright. Perhaps a display of grace would better serve the Sultan's court. Idris bristled. The yard is for blades, not fans. Zara ignored him, snapping open a slender staff tipped with ribbons. Athena, she called, beckoning a young she-wolf forward. "Show them perfection." The girl launched into a twirling routine, ribbons slicing the air. At first it was harmless flash, but Zara's eyes never left Sophia. Without warning, Athena whipped the staff wide, ribbons flicking toward Sophia's face. A cheap distraction meant to humiliate. Sophia's sword moved faster than thought. She caught the ribbon's edge on the tip, twisted, and snapped it free in one smooth flourish. Gasps rippled. Athena stumbled back. The severed ribbon fluttered to the sand like a fallen petal. Zara's smile fractured. Idris stepped in, planting himself between them. "Enough," his voice boomed. "Weapons, real or decorated, stay in their lanes." Sophia handed the ribbon to Athena and bowed. "Grace in all things," she said quietly. Athena's cheeks reddened with embarrassment, but her eyes held reluctant admiration. Zara glared, nostrils flaring. Before she could retort, Arslan's voice descended from the terrace. "Zara," his tone silenced the yard. "Return the staff to the dance hall." Zara bowed, silk whispering, "As you wish, my lord." She turned, fury tight in her shoulders. Arslan descended the stairs, boots thumping. He stopped before Sophia. The entire yard seemed to lean closer. "Come," he said simply. She followed him to a shaded alcove. Bashir remained a discreet distance. Arslan faced her, eyes turbulent. "I felt something last night, through the bond." Her pulse quickened, but fear no longer followed. "I found my wolf," she said. "Or she found me." A flicker of awe parted the lines in his brow. "You heard her?" "I hear her now," Sophia replied. "She says you're stubborn." A startled laugh escaped him. Half pain, half relief. His wolf barked jubilant agreement. "And she?" he asked softly. "She is Athena. She remembers everything I lost." Emotion thickened her voice. "Including who I am." Arslan's breath hitched. "Who are you?" Before she could answer, a messenger sprinted up, breathless. "My Sultan. Trouble in the North Wing. Captain Nadir caught saboteurs near the weapon stores." Arslan stiffened. "Zara?" "Her maids, at least." Bashir cursed under his breath. Arslan's gaze snapped to Sophia. An unspoken apology and urgency mingled. "Stay close to Idris," he ordered. "This is not finished." Sophia nodded. "Go." He strode off with Bashir and the messenger. Idris hustled trainees toward barracks. "Inside, all of you. Trouble's brewing." Tarek jogged beside Sophia. "Seems you're at the eye of every storm." "Better than hiding from one," she replied. But dread coiled. If Zara's maids were